Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the stratosphere to start off with today. We've had this sudden stratospheric warming taking place at the top layer of the stratosphere over the North Pole. So we'll have a look at that and see whether it's starting to move down into the lower layers of the stratosphere in a second. We'll also have a look at weather for the coming weeks, 10 days. We could be on the start of something a bit colder extending out for a week or so. Actually, we could get a week of cold weather next week. It all is a bit flimsy, and Wednesday will be the key day as to whether we can sustain cold conditions beyond sort of a week, or whether we return to an Atlantic westerly flow. It's on a bit of a knife edge, but I'll show you the charts in a second. Before I get on with that, though, just say about the ads. There's links to articles or basic guys, whether it's have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. This is paying for our website and allows us to remain completely free to bring the videos to you. So we're going to start off with the temperatures at the top layer of the atmosphere in the stratosphere over North Pole. This is 10 HPA, about as far up as you can go in the top layer of the atmosphere. So this is the sudden stratospheric warming that occurred over the top of the North Pole and on the Asian side of the North Pole on the 7th of February. It was from around the 5th to 7th of February. So it's from meteosil.fr. Use the archives from Meteosil. The red colours here indicate the temperature shooting up at the top layer of the atmosphere in the stratosphere. Let's see how that's developed going through to today. So we can go through to the 11th of February and see how that's developed into the top layer of the pole. And here we go, it's coming up now. And you can see that it has cooled down because we can't sustain those sort of high temperatures all that long in the top of the atmosphere. So it's cooled down, but even so, quite a big warm push has moved into the North Pole. You can see that the blue colours indicating the cold temperatures in the top layer of the atmosphere have pushed down in towards the Atlantic and Europe. And these yellow colours are moving into the top layer of the North Pole now. So it is quite clearly warming, or it has been warming over the top of the North Pole over the past few days. So this graph tells us where the temperatures in the stratosphere at 10 HPA in the top layer of the atmosphere over the pole should be. That's indicated by the grey line, and the black line is where we've been with those stratospheric temperatures. So of course we've got the dates along the bottom of this graph, and we've got the temperatures at 10 HPA on the side. So you see with the grey line that, well, typically we should be starting to warm up a little bit now. We're beginning to move out of the mid-winter period into the late winter period. This is February just here, and typically we'll be starting to trend up a little bit with those temperatures at 10 HPA in the atmosphere. You see we've had a very cold stratospheric temperature since really November. It's gone on through most of the winter with this black line indicating that that's generally quite a cold stratosphere, and it has been at least part of the driver for the very mild Atlantic-driven winter that we've seen. Now, I'm sure you're seeing what's happened over the past few days. This black line, which remember is telling us where the temperature has been in the stratosphere, absolutely shot up. You can see how it rose up to this level, 10 Celsius at 10 HPA over the North Pole. That is a big warming that took place there. And this is just telling us what we're just looking at from Meteosil, the warm bubble of air that occurred in the atmosphere at 10 HPA in the stratosphere. That black line shows the sudden stratospheric warming. I did say when I was talking about this last week that we would see, if it came off, we would see the black line absolutely shooting up, and that is indeed what it has done. So this is the top layer of the atmosphere in the North Pole. What we've got to do is move this warmth down into the lower layers. We've got to get down to 30 HPA, which is still in the stratosphere. And then beyond that, we have to get down into troposphere. Troposphere is the layer of the atmosphere where weather is taking place. If we can move this bubble of warmth down into the troposphere, that can set up a blocking area of high pressure. So let's have a look at 30 HPA, which is a little bit lower down, see whether this warm event is moving down into the lower layers of the atmosphere. So again, same idea with this chart. The grey line is the trend line, the black line is where we've been through this winter. So again, had a very cold stratosphere, a stratospheric temperature at 30 HPA, a bit lower down, very cold through most of this winter. We had quite a big warming occur at the end of January. That was just here. Didn't really come to much, only dropped down into quite a cold level again. This is the latest warming that's occurring. So you see, we haven't warmed as much yet as we have at 10 HPA. 10 HPA takes us up to around here in terms of the warming, but we are moving up with this black line. It's going to be a question of how far up we can move. If we get up to this sort of level at 30 HPA, then we'll be able to say that the warmth is propagating down into the lower layers of the atmosphere. So a warming has occurred lower down. The main warming is at the top layer. A warming lower down has occurred. Need to wait a day or two, I think, to see just how much of the warmth moves down into that 30 HPA level. And then beyond that, of course, we have to take it down further in towards the troposphere. But it's rather interesting how this has occurred. It's very late in the winter. If this had occurred at the end of December, it could have changed the course of this winter. We're very late on now in towards the middle of February. So how much impact this has for the winter is open to some question. But we are seeing signs of cooling, though. It's probably a coincidence because there's normally a time delay on getting these sudden stratospheric warmings and then getting colder temperature down into mid-latitudes, normally 2 or 3 weeks. So it's probably a coincidence that we are going into a cooler phase of the winter. But the GFS temperature ensembles do show that we've got some pretty cool weather coming up potentially over the coming weeks. So the red line here is the 30-year temperature average. And you can see that overall we're going to be trending generally a little bit below average over the course of the coming week or so. So with these charts, it's always the same idea, really, that the temperatures are on the side, the dates are on the bottom, and you can see from the dates that, well, up to around the 19th, 20th of February, which is just here, we're generally a little bit below the red line. We do trend up a little bit on Saturday. That's as an area of low pressure runs through the English Channel. There was a suggestion with that it could bring some snow. I think the chances of that for snow on Saturday is being reduced at the moment. I would suspect it's going to be mainly the high ground of, say, the North Midlands, something like Buxton, North Wales, possibly the Pennines. Those sort of areas could still get snow on Saturday, but otherwise I think it's going to be a very cold, wet, miserable sort of day for many parts of the country, actually. But other than that little tick up in the temperatures, overall it does look as though we're trending generally below average for the coming weeks. This could be the most prolonged sort of cold period, or cool to cold period. It's not going to be severely cold, but cool to cold period. This could be the most prolonged period of the winter. Now, as we get through into the final week, 10 days or so of month, I've got to remember that February is a shorter month, of course, so the final week is just here. We do trend up. That's a very long way off, though, given the pattern that's setting up. I wouldn't necessarily be all that confident that even then it's going to turn milder. But let's deal with the next week to 10 days first of all, before we worry about the end of the month. So the coming week, this is the temperature anomaly going from the 11th to the 19th of February, coming out colder than average, as is most of Western Europe as well. So quite a big change on what's happened this week. We just had about 1 week back in January towards the end of the month that was a colder than average week as well. But this was like it's our second one of the winter, so quite a significant development, really. There's been such a mild winter, and generally these charts have just been a sea of red from the Atlantic through to Russia. You see it is still generally a very warm scene across much of Eastern Europe and Russia in the coming week. So again, this is the 11th to the 19th of February. You notice it's really quite cold there for Norway, particularly. Some pretty cold temperatures coming up for them. Have a look at the precipitation anomaly. We're going a bit drier than average as well, so that's indicative of high pressure starting to move in and cool things down. So if you have a look at the GFS as we move through into the start of next... Sorry, as we move into the start of next week, this is how we start Monday with high pressure sitting up to the north and west of the country, bring down this northerly to northeasterly wind. That's quite a cold wind, and it could bring some snow showers into the east. So the low pressure will come through the channel on Saturday, probably deliver quite a lot of heavy rain across England and Wales, then clear away as we go through into Sunday, leaving the winds in from the north and northeast. And those will be cold winds that could bring wintry showers or snow showers into northern eastern parts, particularly Sunday into Monday. Tuesday finds a ridge of high pressure building over the top of the country. That's within cold air, so it could well produce some hard overnight frost through the start of next week. I think that would be the main issue as the snow showers, winter showers ease off in the north and the east through the early part of the week. Will trend more towards frosty conditions, I think, as we go through Tuesday and into Wednesday. It could be ice in with that as well. Now, Wednesday is a key day, really, because we've got low pressure trying to move in to the north and west of the country. This area of low pressure here around Greenland and Iceland. That's trying to send a weather front and milder air in off the Atlantic. But pressure is rising over Scandinavia, so there's a bit of a battle beginning to take place here. This could go either way, really. We could send this low pressure, the energy, through the ridge like that and just break down the high pressure, or we could stall that energy out in the Atlantic and turn the winds into the east. So as I say, it could go either way. And this particular run of the GFS, the midnight run, actually does have high pressure over Scandinavia winning the battle. So as we go through Wednesday, we find a weather front coming down across the country. That's coming into cold air, possibly producing snow. As it does so, it's moving in off the Atlantic, but hitting this block of cold air and sort of stalling. And what happens is that the trough eventually just slips away to the south. This is midnight Thursday. And there's a front just here, stretched out through this sort of zone. It's trying to come into this cold air, but it's just stalling and moving southwards. It could be producing snow this through the middle part of the week. This tends to be how we get some of our best snow events, really, with low pressure moving in from the Atlantic, coming up against a block of cold air, stalling. The cold air undercuts, and that produces a snow event. And what happens is that low pressure just slips away. So as you go through to the end of next week, this is Friday the 19th, the high pressure over Scandinavia has actually won the battle. The low pressure now is in this sort of area, and we're turning the winds properly into the east there, dragging cold air out of central parts of Europe. Now, as I say, it's all a little bit flimsy because we've still got quite a big influence here from the Azores high, and that is always a complicating factor. This ridge just here is trying to bring the milder air in off the Atlantic. So it could very easily all go wrong, this. It is on a bit of a knife edge. To get a proper cold spell, you need to get rid of this ridge, send it off that way towards Bermuda, and set up an area of low pressure around the Azores. So whenever you've got high pressure in the Azores, it's a complicating factor, and we could finish up just having mild westerly winds. That's what the GEM does. But the GFS, this run of the GFS anyway, has the high pressure over Scandinavia winning battle. So as going to weekend of the 20th, 21st of February, winds are in from the east, and that will be staying cold. Really quite cold for quite a while after that, potentially even. Winds going more southeasterly there actually on day 10, the 21st of February, trying to bring up some milder air out of France. But even then, that high pressure over Scandinavia at 1,050 millibars, it's a big area of high pressure, and it's going to take a lot of shifting if it was to go up to that sort of central pressure. The key to these Scandinavian highs is always to get into them. Once you get into a Scandinavian high, it can take a lot of shifting, but it's getting into it that's always hard, because very often as you're trying to progress into the Scandinavian high, it'll all go wrong and the Atlantic westerlies will return. Once you actually get into a blocked scenario, then it can take quite a bit of shifting. That's a GFS. This is the SSW. Again, we're in this cold, showery north-northeasterly wind on Monday. That could be bringing in snow showers into the east of the country. Have to watch out for that. Maybe a few snow streamers in places. We go through to Tuesday, and the ridge is building down from the north, so that keeps it cold and turns things very frosty. Then the same idea as the GFS through Wednesday. The high pressure is trying to go up towards Scandinavia. A weather front is trying to move in off the Atlantic coming into that cold air. So again, bit of a battle for the middle part of next week. High pressure to the east is trying to keep the cold weather going from the east. Low pressure to the west is trying to bring milder air down from the north and the west. Again, there's a stall taking place here of that weather front. So this is midnight Thursday, and this low pressure is the weather front that's tried to move in off the Atlantic. It's come in like that, hit this wedge of cold air that's associated with this ridge sitting to the east, and below is just moving southwards. Again, there could be snow in with that. It's rain coming in off the Atlantic, hitting the cold air, possibly giving a snow event. We'll have to wait until near to the time to see the exact soundings as to whether it is rain or snow. But certainly it's cold air winning the battle there, really, against that weather front. Then Friday stays cold under this ridge of high pressure. Again, it's all a little bit flimsy. The Azores high is strong and seen down to southwest as a complicating factor. And it does look as though this high pressure over Scandinavia, because of the Atlantic influence of the Azores high, is starting to slip down to the south. So as we go beyond this into the weekend of 20th, 21st of February, Atlantic winds start to return, but not before perhaps another snow event on Saturday the 20th of February from these weather fronts moving in off the Atlantic. But by day 10, 21st of February, we're back into a milder Atlantic driven flow. Now just very quick look at the GEM. So that's similar for the start of next week with this cold north to northeasterly wind. The ridge builds in Tuesday, that's okay, frosty and dry. But then we go through to Wednesday, and this is a bit different. This is the danger with this pattern, really. The high pressure doesn't go up to Scandinavia. So we just start to bring in milder air around the top. You see the difference. Instead of bringing the weather front in from the Atlantic and stalling it, because we've got a ridge up here, actually the ridge is further south. It's down across Germany. And that just means that the milder Atlantic air is rolling in over the top. And the whole problem with this really is this Azores high that's sitting down to the south and the southwest of the country. It's pulling down the ridge and stopping it from getting into Scandinavia. So the mild winds just roll in around the top. We go through to Thursday, we're in a mild westerly flow, and then we turn it unsettled as we go through that final weekend of February. This is day 10, 21st of February. Cold and northwesterly wind coming in then, but it is still all very much Atlantic driven. So the GEM breaks down this little colder spell around Tuesday, Wednesday next week. The other two, though, and they are the best, the GFS and the ECM do trend as the best models. They want to sustain the cold weather through the working week next week, and then possibly break it down over the weekend of the 20th, 21st February, which in this pattern is a very long way off. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens next week. It's not beyond the realm of impossibility that we could have a cold week next week and possibly have some snow through the middle part of next week, quite widely across the country. But it is a long way off. The pattern is rather flimsy. I'd rather see the Azores high shoving off towards Bermuda and turning the North Atlantic Oscillation negative, while the Azores high is sitting there just to the southwest of Portugal. It does make for a very difficult pattern to get a sustained sort of block Scandinavian high. So let's wait and see how it progresses. It's the most interesting phase of the winter, I think, this. And that's not saying much because it's been a terrible winter for cold and snow lovers. But it is the most interesting period of the winter so far. We'll wait and see what happens. And whether this is related to that southern stratospheric warming, I've got my doubts. I think it's probably just a coincidence. The influence from that probably won't be felt until March, assuming, of course, it has any influence. That's all for now. It's JMA Friday tomorrow, looking at the weather for the coming month. I've gone on for quite a long time with this, but I wanted to explain exactly what we're looking at next week, because it is quite a complicated situation. So I hope you found it interesting. I hope I've not gone on too long. That's all for now. JMA Friday tomorrow, looking at the coming month. Bye for now.